Excellent. Happy Taco Tuesday, Michelle.
Happy Taco
I'm
Tuesday, indeed.
looking forward to eating my tacos today.
I have yet to, I have yet to cook it.
Yeah, and I have yet to cook yours. So we're actually trading tacos. So I'm going to be cooking beef tacos for Michelle.
And I'm going to be cooking cauliflower and carrot tacos for
Sounds
Marina.
good. Thank you so much. Can I have more cauliflower, please, than carrot?
More cauliflower than carrot? You got it.
Thank you. Yeah, so we are actually going to talk about ratings today. So, customer feedback, customer ratings, it's extremely important. The ratings are really important. Would you say, Michelle?
100%. I think as a shopper, if I go on Amazon, I would always look at the rating. If I go on Yelp and look for a restaurant, I would always sort it by ratings.
Yeah, right. So a lot of customers, especially because that's all they really have to go off of are like your product pictures, descriptions, but what's really powerful are the ratings, right? So, every now and then you don't get a 5 score or you don't get the rating that you want. And so what do you do about that? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so for those of you who are just hopping on with us, we go live daily at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we go live on YouTube. Sometimes we switch it up though. Sometimes we'll go live on like Instagram instead of YouTube. So just kind of like keep an eye out for either one. Our handles on Instagram has changed. It used to be The Flippin' Gals. It's now just Flippin' Gals. And on YouTube, it's also Flippin' Gals. So hello to Lizette. Happy Taco Tuesday, Michelle and Marina. She gets it. So, and then her question is, does it count if I have a burrito bowl? I think so. Yeah, Michelle makes me lettuce tacos sometimes. Isn't that basically the same thing?
Wait, burrito bowl has rice, right? Does it?
Yeah, that I don't know. It can have whatever you want, right, in a bowl.
True.
So yeah, so Lizette's handle on YouTube is New England Betty Boop. For those of you who are listening.
And Lizette, let us know what your thoughts are, and if you have any tips as to sort of managing low customer ratings. Have you done that before? And what do you do about a low rating?
Yeah, so it's important, extremely important. I've heard this across the board. Like we have very limited experience with Amazon. However, I've heard the same advice across the board there as well, which is, as soon as you get a low rating, it's a time to take some action immediately at that moment. Basically, drop everything. And oftentimes, not everyone just goes on there and gives a low rating. Oftentimes, customers actually will message you and tell you what's going on. I think it just depends on the platform. So one of our platforms that we really enjoy selling on, Etsy, allows you to message the shop owner, which is really fantastic because a lot of our customers on Etsy, they don't just, say, oh, I'm unhappy, 1 star. They don't do that. They actually will message us and they will say, hey, this is what's going on. And they kind of allow us the opportunity to, to change or to meet the needs that they're having or to solve their concerns or issues. So we're going to go through and we're going to talk about eBay, Mercari, Poshmark, and Etsy. We're going to tell you our experience with low star ratings and can you change the ratings? What's the answer to that question, Michelle?
Yeah, in most cases, yes.
Isn't that so surprising though? So knowing that ratings are so darn important, isn't that like so good to know that in most cases you can have an influence on changing them? And we're going to show you our experience with that. We're going to talk about that with you today. So Lizette said, yeah, her burrito bowl is going to have rice. I think it counts though,
So how important is feedback as a seller? What do you think, Marina?
I think it's it's extremely important, right? It's extremely, extremely important. I think we just talked about that briefly, right? My sister just opened a hair salon. She has a couple of ratings on there that are 5 stars, and as a result, she's gotten new clients.
Oh wow!
Right. So yeah, you can have if you have a business that's like a service type place, like a hair salon. Yeah, you can go use a platform Yelp. You can use Google. Those are a couple I could think of. But also like on everything that we do, and we didn't really talk about it, but what we do is we like to buy secondhand items mostly, and then resell them online to make some profit.
Yeah.
So that's what we like to do. And we also like to show other people our journey, so that, anyone who was ever in our situation where they need an additional income stream or sets of income streams, this is one idea for you. There's like millions of ideas out there. We're very fortunate in the United States of America that, you can learn how to do this. It's very simple. So we're just hoping to help anyone who needs the ideas or the help, right? So anyway, back to the 5 stars. Here's a comment from Lizette, New England Betty Boop. She says, I have had 2 4-star ratings, I'm assuming is what it means, on Poshmark, and have reached out to them both times to ask why. Neither time was my fault. It was for fit, and I had measurements and all. So they both changed the rating to 5. That is so good to know, Lizette, because we haven't had the same experience on Poshmark, but it helps to share what works for you, right? So for Lizette, it worked for her to just ask why, and maybe they felt maybe guilty or bad because it wasn't her fault. You know what I mean? So she's like, oh, hey, I had the measurements on there, and maybe they didn't know that, so they changed it. So that's really cool. Lizette, thank you for sharing that. Please feel free again, anyone who's attending our live, to discuss like your experience, so we could share it with those who are listening in to the podcast.
Yep. And positive feedback obviously leads to credibility, right? So if that's the case, it's a strong signal to buyers that it's safe to make a purchase.
100%, yes.
That's why it's so important. But here's a fun fact that I was able to find out. So buyers leave positive feedback between 20 and 30% of successful transactions. Unhappy buyers will leave feedback about 90% of the time. Isn't that crazy?
It's so bad.
It's terrible. And this hurts a lot of businesses, especially on Yelp. I mean, I could go through like Yelp reviews and see a lot of either 1 star or 5 stars.
Exactly. So I mean, I like the comment that Lizette put here. She says, I always want to know if I'm doing something wrong. So that's a really optimistic manner of taking that feedback, which is like, well, let's say you are getting, fine, 90% of buyers are going to leave, who are unhappy are going to leave negative feedback, right? So that's definitely not good, but fine, let's see what can be improved, right? So honestly, they're kind of doing you a favor in a way, by telling you how you can improve your business. Unfortunately though, when you are selling online, it really, really can hurt your success in our, in what we do, which is buying things to sell online. So we actually had, like if your ratings drop low, especially on eBay, it can affect like how much eBay will expose your store, which can affect your sales. So
yeah,
that's the negative.
So let's talk about Etsy first. Marina, please feel free to chime in. So a lot of you guys know we have 2 Etsy stores, and something that I didn't notice is, as a shopper, immediately when you go to the shop page, you could see the number of sales, you could see the number of stars. So that is really big because it's literally on top of your shop page. So super important to get 5 stars. And in addition to that, Etsy also adds a little comment on the side that says, buyers are raving. This shop got multiple 5-star reviews in the past 7 days. So that is another green light for shoppers to, buy stuff from your store. What do you think of this?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, you guys, if you know us, we're big fans of Etsy. Etsy knows how to sell things. They've mastered it, e-commerce, so well in all terms. They take care of their buyers, they take care of the customers. Whoever's on their marketing team, kudos. Like, I want to research who you are and read your book, because they're doing a great job. And I think some other platforms can learn from this. And there's a really good comment from Rich, who's thrifting by on YouTube. He says that communication can be improved. They need to encourage more interaction with one another. 100% agree with that. And Etsy does do that. And I think also that is why, they know that works, and that's why they encourage it. So I did hear on places such as like Poshmark that they're trying to do that. They're working towards that. So that's a really good thing. Let me know if that's right. Like, if you heard that too, if you are selling on Poshmark, because I want to make sure I'm giving the right information and not making it up.
Yeah, I mean, I really wish that Poshmark could do it, because there are so many times we try to communicate with the buyer, and it's either they don't get the message, it's, they get too many notifications, it's kind of just, it's just in between all the notifications, so they don't respond. I hope they could do it, because that is certainly one thing I struggle with on Poshmark.
Poshmark doesn't currently have a messaging system that you can interact with people on, but Etsy, as we mentioned, does. So let's go back to Etsy really fast. So Etsy, I wanted to talk about Etsy because we've been given low stars on Etsy before, right? So we've been like one of those shops where somebody comes on and they give a low star. The funny thing about the low reviews, though, just kind of like what Lizette mentioned earlier, is that most of the time you didn't do anything wrong. Right? So most of the time, it's not on you. And so the best thing to do, honestly, hands down, if you get a low review, don't be upset. I think Michelle and I, we used to get kind of like upset or sad or offended, especially if we didn't do anything wrong. But we don't have the approach of like getting upset, mad, or offended at all. So we usually, when we have a low review, we try to empathize with the customer. Now, keep in mind, oftentimes a customer is going to be angry. So they're not going to have like a night. Most of the time when they're leaving that negative review or low star rating, they're not going to be like the happiest or the come off as like the kindest, I guess, at that moment, which is understandable. Like, if my expectations were not met, I will be upset too. But anyway, so we basically just try to resolve the issue. So I'm going to talk about one specific situation. So we had a customer who purchased a vintage electronic item from us and wanted to return it. Michelle, is that it right there? No, that's a different one. So do you happen to have the one about the calculator? So
no, I don't.
The customer said, hey, my calculator doesn't work, and plus it's dirty, so I want to this is horrible, I want to return it. So and then left a low review. So I quickly, instead of say like, oh, I'm so sorry, let me give you a refund. No. That's not really helping anyone out, right? That's like the last thing you want to do is just offer a refund, because remember, you want to meet the customer's needs. What did the customer need in this example? A working calculator, right? So first of all, because I'm familiar with this calculator, I basically said, oh, hey, I'm really sorry to hear that. Always say sorry, that have some empathy, right? We have empathy. Say sorry that, the item didn't arrive as you had hoped, blah, blah, blah. And then I suggest like, oh, but have you tried doing this? Because sometimes with these calculators, when they haven't been, used in a while, they will turn dark. So, and then you just kind of leave it. So this customer came back, did what I had suggested. Item was working fine, no problem. And of course, we know that for the most part, it should be working fine, because we test everything 3 times and we ship things pretty well. Of course, there's always that unicorn time when things don't arrive. Okay, but for us, it's pretty much almost never happened with electronics. Anyway, long story short, she goes back and she updates the rating and says, oh, they're pleasant to work with. They respond immediately. that's all that the customer wants. They just want you to meet their need, right?
Yeah, I think Rich is right about, communication is really key. Another great thing about Etsy is that they sort of really encourage you to write a review. They when you put a review, there's a little text box in there, and it really like makes you want to write something. So that's a cool thing, because as a buyer, as a shopper, when you see these reviews, you really like, these are gold. You can't buy these. These are really like legit. So they certainly will lead to sales as well.
Did you want to read this? I see that you put on the slide there, when positive feedback. Remember, 20 to 30% of happy customers will leave a positive feedback. So, Michelle, you want to read it?
Which one do you want me to read?
What I see something on the slide deck there. Did you want to just read what you put there on the slide, so that the listeners who are listening to the podcast can know what you
totally.
put there? Right.
So the first review, we've got 5 stars. It says, met my expectations on every level. The second review, the customer ordered a mug, and the mug actually arrived broken, and this was not our fault, obviously. So we sent a replacement the next day, and her review says, one mug arrived broken, but they sent a replacement the same day. Excellent customer service and very personable. Would highly recommend. And then the last review, it says, wow, capital WOW, over the top service and responsive. One quick email and bam, they had it done. Received the first order much quicker than expected, and now friends have requested others, so order more. Best Etsy experience among many good ones. This excelled. So this is awesome. Again, it goes a long way, even though there are people, sometimes it's not your fault. These positive reviews would really overpower those whatever negative reviews there are. So
100%. Yeah. No, that makes me so happy to hear that, because I honestly, sometimes, you get so busy, you don't take the time to think about the reviews there. But that made me really smile, because I remember those times when we go above and beyond, for a customer. It makes us like so happy, because what we like, and what like any human likes, is connection, right? And so we feel really connected to the customers when we're able to make their day and to meet their needs, and like reassure them that they're going to get what they want or need, and even do something even better. So so that was cool. Thanks for reading that, Michelle.
I do want to make another note, and this is something we're learning, is that on Etsy, if you do receive a negative review, you have 2 options, right? One is, if it's really, really unfair, you can contact Etsy and ask them to remove the review, because of, just give support points to your rationale as to why they need to remove it. The second thing you could do is you could respond to a review. So if you go to your page, if you have Etsy, there's a section that says report or respond to this review. You can actually respond to it with a note, kind of like what you see on Yelp sometimes. And that will help shoppers see, who's right and who's wrong, and what makes sense. So that's really awesome, because on other platforms, I don't think they let you do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point Michelle made there. Yeah. It definitely allows it allows for transparency, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Now moving on to eBay. So I think as a shopper, I do look at the ratings and the percentage, and I look at the color of the stars. I don't know for what reason, but it makes you think like, oh, they're more trustworthy and reliable.
Yes, it does. 100%. And I think eBay made their platform that way. And to the extent that when you are looking at your feedback ratings, they have like 1 month, 6 month, 12 month, and they show you how many positive ratings you have. They even have an option for neutral, and then they have a big red minus sign for negative.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But
go ahead.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So what I was just going to say is that it takes about a year to get the rating removed on eBay. So if you have a negative review, you'll have it for a year, and it'll be there for that whole year. Everyone could see it. Go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, and I just want to break down like what the percentage means, because sometimes I see the percentage, I don't know what it means, but it's basically the positives divided by the positives plus negatives, and you get a percentage. So eBay, it's a little different. They also tell you the seller ratings, which includes accurate description, reasonable shipping cost, shipping speed, and communication. And they literally have a rating for each of those categories. So eBay is a little bit more anal in terms of giving you a rating. But I think at the same time, it helps, build some credibility and help the shoppers trust you as a shop more. What do you think of that, Marina?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I was just trying to read the eBay feedback because they have an entire formula as to how they figure it out. So, if you end up watching this live again on YouTube, you could read it on there. So
mm-hmm. Exactly. There is a way that you could potentially either fix the percentage of your feedback. As basically, you want to make sure that first of all, you want to make sure you talk to the customer if they have any issue. That's the first step. And if you can't come to an agreement, and if it's if it's unfair and unreasonable, give eBay a call, tell them why, and just make sure you have your rationale as well. They're reasonable people, and we've actually had negative reviews removed on eBay.
Yeah, but we haven't really had any customer. Are you able to update the review on eBay? Like if you're a customer who left a negative review, can you update that?
Yeah, they have 30 days to do it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, we haven't had situations like that. We have had situations where, like Michelle says, this is our recommendation. If the review is unfair, you don't even have to, I mean, it's up to you if you want to contact the customer or not. But the only thing that you really need to do is contact eBay and ask them to remove the rating. And as long as you've been doing well, like your performance is good, they usually remove it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if anyone who's in the room now, in the chat room, if anyone's experienced that where they've been able to call eBay and have them remove a negative rating. Now, with eBay, a lot of people make a lot of money on eBay, right? There's a lot of people who only sell on eBay and they're doing really well. That said, when we first started, eBay was our #1 selling platform. And we made so many mistakes. eBay's not forgiving. Your percentage of your margin of error has to be tiny for you to be a successful seller on eBay. So now, does that mean, don't start on eBay? You could totally start on eBay, but watch a lot of videos, ask a lot of questions, keep your margins of error tiny because, and by the way, we do have an ebook called the Top 20 Reselling Mistakes to Avoid. All of those, don't do them on eBay because we learned the hard way. We did, several mistakes on eBay, like many. They're covered in our ebook, which you can find on flippinggals.com. But anyway, and guess what? We got punished for that. So we were selling a lot on eBay, and all of a sudden, like from one day to another, they removed our rating status. It was lowered. What happened after that? Our sales dropped to 0. And guess how long we were like in eBay jail? We were in eBay jail for a year. We didn't see movement on eBay for an entire year. We had to develop other platforms to sell our items on. And after the year, our items started moving again slowly. It has never been the same.
Yeah, that's true. So don't cancel any sales. Making sure you check your defect rate and make sure it's on high and above average level. The other thing about eBay is you can actually reply to a feedback. If you receive a feedback and let's say eBay, they don't want to remove the feedback for you, you can reply to it, similar to Etsy. Another thing that you could do is really be persistent, calling eBay. And let's say there is a really negative comment that they left on there. Sometimes you can negotiate with them and they would be willing to remove the comment, but keep the star in there, which is less harmful, less damaging than having a really, really bad comment. So that's something that I've learned through this selling on eBay.
So you mean, Michelle, like for your seller performance, it won't negatively affect it so much? Is that what you mean?
No. So we're talking about feedback, right? So it's like the number of stars they give you. So for example, you sold an item and the shirt didn't fit the customer, whatever reason, right? And the customer basically said, this is a really bad seller, don't buy from them, blah, blah, blah. And they give you 1 star. For example, you could call eBay and tell eBay to negotiate with them and try to push them to remove the review. If they don't want to remove the review, they can remove the comment. That's something they're willing to offer. And this happened a few times, a while ago. So that's less harmful than, reading 1 star is less harmful than saying don't buy from them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know like on what, because, I'm like the analytical person. So I was like, oh, where is the data where it shows that? There's no data. It's just basically you're saying if someone doesn't read negativity, it's better than like reading negativity.
Correct.
I understand that. Yeah. So we do have a question. Duncan VR said, how do I boost my eBay feedback? Now at 13,753, but he wants to be at 14,000. So he wants to get more, more positive feedback. So anyone have any suggestions for Duncan VR? How's it going, Duncan?
Hi, Duncan. I've learned this tip from another eBay seller, and I'm not proposing this, but that person recommended to buy something because, if you are a seller, you also get ratings as a buyer, right? So if you buy something for 99 cents or something, I don't know, whatever you want to buy on eBay, they would leave you a feedback. And in most cases, as a buyer, you should have a positive feedback. So that is one way that you could grow your feedback. Okay, Marina?
Yeah. He says he's going to have to sell 250 items more. Well, yeah, and if you miss the beginning, you'll probably have to sell more than that because on average, 20 to 30% of people leave positive reviews per sale. So yeah, it will take some time. But you can, I've heard of other things like you can include a little, business card or something to encourage ratings. You could offer a discount code to encourage ratings. And it's not even like, hey, do this for me and I'll do that for you. It's just like kind of like what we talked about at the beginning, go above and beyond for the customer and you're going to increase your chances of them giving you a rating, on eBay.
Exactly.
Also, make sure that you are, when someone purchases something, that you leave a rating immediately on eBay as well, saying nice things about the buyer, which I'm sure you already do. But for those who don't know that, when someone purchases your item, you have an opportunity to rate them. So make sure you rate them honestly as well. Mm-hmm. So we do have a question here from Cynthia. So Cynthia is saying that like she called for a negative review from eBay, but then they told her the customer has to update that. Mm-hmm. And she has tried twice. Any advice for Cynthia?
I don't know. I would say be persistent. I mean, that seemed to be the one thing that worked for us in our experience. And Cynthia, I think also, like if you have any proof point or if you have any supporting documents that you could share with eBay that might be stronger to convince them to do it. So yeah, sometimes you get a good person on the phone. Sometimes they can be difficult. So it varies. So I would try calling a couple times actually.
Keep in mind though, like the ratings are not always going to be removed. So like Michelle says, if you have documentation supporting that you didn't do anything wrong, that's going to help you to to get your rating removed. So if you did make a mistake, that will be much more difficult to get it removed if it was an honest mistake, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But so then that's when you would want to contact the customer and fix it with them. And we have never asked a customer to update their rating, but when we, show the customer that we care and that we want to meet their needs, they automatically change the rating, and we don't ask them ever to do that.
Yep. All right. Moving on to Mercari. So from our experience, Mercari is literally the hardest platform to change a rating. Would you agree, Marina?
Yes, Mercari is the hardest platform. Well, for us, also Poshmark, but actually also Poshmark. But Mercari is really tough because with Mercari, you can't deal with the customer after an item has been purchased. They don't even let you message the customer anymore after the item is like the transaction is over. So that's interesting on Mercari's end. I think if they just left it open longer, like what eBay does, or sorry, Etsy does, it would be better, I think. So with Mercari.
Yeah, the one good thing about Mercari, and I don't know if this is good, but as a seller, if the buyer don't give you a rating at all after 3 days, you automatically get a 5-star rating. I think that's a plus, because it really shows this is a sale that you've made, and if they don't say anything, that means they're happy, and you get a 5-star.
Okay, so we have to applaud Mercari for that, because that's really helping the sellers,
Correct. Yeah.
So that means 70 to 80% of the time. 70 to 80% of the time, maybe you would get 5-star. No, it doesn't work that way, I don't think, because like Mercari also sends a message, hey, you've gotten your item, please rate the they're pretty darn good too. Please rate the seller. You have 3 days to do it. If you don't do it, they're automatically going to get 5 stars. So again, if you're at 90% of the customer who's unhappy, you're going to take the time and rate them before the 3 days are over. So, but it's good to know that. Now, Rich does have a comment. He said that, for good feedback, you must treat a buyer customer as if they were in front of you. Show your personality through your words. I love that. The personal touch. It's very, very valuable, especially these days, right? When many of us are out of touch with those things, with technology and all of that, right?
Yeah, I do want to pull up an example. I don't know, Marina, if you could read this. Can you read this?
Yeah, I can. Did you want me to, or can you read it?
Oh, well, I'll tell a story. I think what happened was the customer bought something, and she complained that it arrived late, if I remember. But the feedback was very, very unfair. It was uncalled for, not necessary. So we emailed Mercari and told them exactly what happened. We had screen grabs of when the item was delivered, and we continued to escalate it because they continued to said, no, you can't change your rating. You can't change your rating. So this is what happened, Marina, if you could read it.
Okay, yes. So did you explain the exact story? With the shipping?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we didn't do anything wrong, right? And I remember this so much. So out of Michelle and I'm the persistent one. I don't give up. I just don't give up. But so this was just really unfair, that we were given a really low rating because FedEx was 1 day late with their delivery. And so they gave us a low rating because of that only. And then in the review, it's so funny because the rating was low, but then the customer said, oh, but their packaging is fantastic, and like all these positive things. And nonetheless, in order to change that, which we didn't even know if you could change it at that time on Mercari, and as Michelle stated, it's extremely difficult to change it. I spent many days talking to Mercari about this. And finally, here's the response, the final response, right? Hi, hey there, thanks for your patience. My name is Edward, and I'm happy to assist you today. I'm a customer service manager here at Mercari, and I appreciate your cooperation and understanding that we can't change a rating without the consent of the user who left the rating. I've confirmed that the buyer has agreed they made a mistake in your rating as it was pertaining to the carrier and not you, the seller. I've gone ahead and removed the comment and updated the rating to 5 stars. Congrats. Sorry to make you jump through so many holes to do this. However, we take ratings pretty seriously and don't typically alter them as we believe in keeping our marketplace as transparent as possible. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great weekend. Edward, Team Mercari. So, yes, it can happen. The ratings can change. But we're not saying you can easily message Mercari, they're going to change it. That's not going to happen. We do think this was a rare case. The only reason they changed it is because we had a conversation with the buyer. We had a conversation with the customer, and she agreed to change it as was stated in the letter. So that was a good one. Also, I just wanted to touch on something else because we really want to try to help out Duncan here, who is asking for some help. He says, yes, he puts, please leave a feedback. So I'm going to go back to Duncan and then something that Rich said that was very, very interesting. He says, yes, I put, please leave feedback and visit my store in every order and message them as well. I also send them my store link and ask them to bookmark it. So again, Duncan is looking on how to increase his positive feedback on his store, right? Now I do have to say that I think I said this. I think I said this earlier. Okay, but it's worth saying again. Rich said, for good feedback, you must treat your buyer customer as if they were in front of you. Show your personality through words. So here's the thing: there's transactional language, and then there's transformative language. I learned this from Brene Brown, from a recent podcast I was listening to, and I'm like, whoa, that really hits home. When it comes to customer service. I love, Rich and Lizette. It sounds like they have a lot of experience dealing with people and customer service. But you really got to touch the personal side of dealing with customers. You have to show empathy. You have to show that you really care. So you want to leave the transactional language behind, and you want to come in with your transformative language. And those are some soft skills that actually would really, really help you increase your 5-star ratings. The personal touch, coming from the heart, right? Yeah. Not coming from the brain. So that's really kind of helped us. And it looks like, Rich also talks about that. So he said, just like Marina said, leave a customer card. I will add, show your personality through your words in the card, handwrite it. We get that, Rich. And Rich says that with all his sales on all platforms, especially on his website, he adds a personal typed letter, introducing a store, a business card, and a personal and thank you card. See, something like that where it shows you're taking a lot of time to do this. Some people appreciate that kind of, treatment. So that's a tip, Duncan. See if any of that helps you. And we would love to know if within the next couple of months you start getting more feedback in your store.
Okay, let's move on to Poshmark. So I actually, as a seller, we only see my closet. We only see our little page as a seller, but I've never actually visited our site as a buyer. So I actually clicked on our site and we looked at about the buyer or about the Posher. You actually get all these love notes, and these are really positive feedback from the buyers at your store. And I didn't realize that how important it is to have positive feedback, because as a shopper, when I see these comments, I'm like, oh my God, I'm totally buying from them. So super important to get positive feedback and love notes on Poshmark.
Yeah, and we appreciate every single person who does this. And, if just a reminder for us who are in retail, e-commerce, selling things, and we need the positive feedback. We really need it. Like, let's remember to do the same. Let's remember to always leave, you know, a nice little note. It takes seconds, just because that's what we would appreciate, right?
All right, Marina, would you like to talk about this sweater that we sold?
Yeah, definitely. So we had a recent, so this is Poshmark. We're moving on to Poshmark. So we've touched on eBay, we've touched on Etsy, we've touched on Mercari, and the last one we're touching on tonight is Poshmark. So Poshmark, we haven't had quite the same success yet on here. Now, Lizette mentioned that she was able to get her ratings updated, but yeah, by asking why, because she's coming from like a place like, I want to do better. So we've had a couple of instances here. Maybe we didn't approach it right, but the most recent one, it was our mistake. You know, at least we're giving the benefit of the doubt, obviously, to the customer, as we always do. And there were a couple of small holes on a sweater that we totally missed. So we actually ended up refunding the buyer, right? And so, but anyway, we also offered, you know, when she found the first hole, we offered 25% discount off of any item in our store. And then she found a second hole, and we offered 50% discount off any item in our store and a total refund, right? And we did message her on Poshmark, like under the sold item. We just tagged her name, and then we messaged her there. But really important, if you don't want your conversation to be public, Lizette mentions earlier, she mentioned that you can actually set up a bundle. You can Google this or YouTube this. In Poshmark, you could set up a bundle, and you can private message in a bundle.
Oh,
so
wow.
like that's like a secret kind of way to do that, right?
That's really good advice, Lizette. Thanks for sharing.
Yes, it is. Anyway, so this customer we reached out to a couple times. We did what we could, but there was no response, and she didn't even want to return the item or anything. She didn't update the rating. We didn't get any response, so that's a little bit on our end frustrating, because, you know, we just want to talk to the customer. We want to meet their needs. So, and we had, I think, 3 times a similar situation happen where we went above and beyond. You know, we sent like gifts, like expensive items to customers. We don't mind doing that, you know, if it's our mistake or whatever. But then we heard no response back. So I guess we've had, you know, that experience on Poshmark. How about you guys? Have you had any experiences on Poshmark when it comes to ratings? Have you been able to get the customer to change it? Because they can update it. They definitely can update it. A comment from Rich, which is really good as well. He said, one thing I can say and attest to is the old saying, you can't fake nice. People will see your true personality by the condition of the item, your packaging, and your words in letters and cards. We can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and Rich has a really great comment. And he said, Cynthia, I think of myself as a sales doctor. I always reach out for a follow-up and say, hi, I hope your item is making you very happy. And I ask, how are you enjoying the item?
Really good customer service advice. Yes, thank you, Rich. That is excellent. You will get return customers if you do that.
I know, right?
100%. Make it about them, right? So you don't want it to see, and we do have an entire live, you know, podcast about customer service if you want to check it out, and another one about customer experience.
Yeah.
But this is perfect. What Rich does, we do this too. We try to do this for every single feedback that we get, a positive one. We reach out and say thank you for leaving a positive feedback, right? Yeah. And then we also try to reach out and say, how did you get your item if we haven't heard anything? So again, make it about the customer, not about you. And they're going to be so happy with you.
Yeah, and just to sum this up, so what can we do to improve our seller feedback? So one is really send a follow-up note to the buyer, as Rich had advised. Leave a feedback for them if you can. And, you know, if you receive any negative feedback, do your best to remove it, communicate with the buyer, just, you know, do everything you can and not have any negative feedback, because it is important.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, ready for our meme?
Yes, I am. And I'm also ready for tacos.
Oh,
but
God.
I'll take the meme first.
There you go. You could do it.
Okay. So this is like clearly an Amazon, couple of reviews from Amazon. And it says how to give a bad rating without hurting any feelings. Okay. So the first rating has a 1 star. It says, I really like it. Absolutely perfect. Not worth it. Received product in timely fashion. Product is just as described in details. Works great. Showed up on time. I saw them slip in something there. Did you see that? They said not worth it.
That's a weird. It's like
That's
you're
weird.
giving 1 star, you're giving a 5-star written comment, which is really funny. You're not hurting anyone. You're still hurting someone's feelings. Come on.
Okay, so not worth it. As a teacher, though, I can totally relate because when we are instructed and given feedback, there's like the sandwich rule. So the sandwich rule is like you say something that someone does well, you give the criticism, and then you end with something that someone does well. I think a teacher did that because that's exactly it. It's a sandwich. It's like all these like amazing things, one really bad thing, and all these amazing things. So. Sorry, if there are any teachers out there, you get why you get it. Teacher joke. All right, well, that does come to the conclusion of our live, and we want to thank everyone who was in the live participating with us today. We wish, Duncan, that you get more feedback for your store. Reach that 14,000. And thank you guys so much for your feedback in the live. A lot of people who are listening to the podcast, you're going to help them out so much in making their stores better. Thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia says, you're amazing. Michelle and Marina, that's what Amazon, those two, but they have the system reply. Rich said, one thing I always hear from online sellers, I buy items I like. You have to put your personal likes aside and look through a buyer's eye. Yes, having empathy goes a long way, customer empathy in our business, right, as resellers. So, and Duncan says, I hope to become a mod on here. You got it. Mod granted, Duncan. So we're going to go ahead and connect with you on Facebook in regards to that. So thank you guys again. Have a wonderful Taco Tuesday, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.
Tacos. Let's go. Bye.